How do you set up a documents repository for your project so that your team can keep better track of all their files? I'm Tony Zink, and this is the Project Guide. Hi folks, Tony Zink here, project management author and trainer and creator of the Project Manifesto. I show people how to use tools and techniques to get better results faster on their projects, whether that means saving time, saving money, reducing risks, or providing a more stress-free and pleasant experience for everyone involved in the project. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing or following me on this channel. And if you're not tuning in directly on my website, tonyzink.com, then you can go there to get the video for this episode and others like it, the audio podcast for this episode, the entire written transcript, and other goodies too. Have you or someone on your project team ever lost an important project file or document in your email inbox or junk folder? Have you ever lost track of which one of your team members has the latest version of a file? Or worse yet, maybe you've made updates to a file only to find out that someone else on your team already had a newer version of that file. Maybe you've been at a meeting or out of the office and you weren't able to see the latest version of a document or update a document when you needed to because it was stored on a computer at your home or back at the office. Project teams run into these types of problems all the time when their project files are scattered across people's computer hard drives or email inboxes, with no ability to easily see who has the latest version of any given file, who has last updated it, or when it was last updated. Problems like these can be prevented though, or at least greatly reduced, by using one of the fantastic online file sharing tools that we have available to us today. It wasn't very long ago that people working on project teams struggled with document and file management. It was really easy to lose track of who had the latest version of a file or lose track of where a file was located. People in larger companies started setting up network file shares or network drives to give teams a central place to store their files, and that was a great start. But when people increasingly became more mobile, these solutions started to fall apart because they were trapped behind a firewall on a corporate network. This is where online file sharing tools started emerging and solving not only the centralization problems, but also the mobility problems. An online file sharing tool is an internet-based service that allows you to store, organize, share computer files in a central repository and access them with nearly any type of internet-connected device. You can use online file sharing tools to manage project-related files such as documents, contracts, designs, CAD files, cost spreadsheets, issue logs, reports, and other types of files that people create and share in project teams. Some of the more popular services allow you to install free software on your computer, then you get a folder created on that computer where you can save your project files. And any files that you store in that folder are kept on your hard drive and they're automatically copied to a secure central location over the internet that your team members and customers can easily access as long as you've given them the permission to do so. Online file sharing tools are fantastic for project teams because project files are accessible from any internet-connected computer or mobile device, such as smartphones or tablets, so team members can access their files from the office, from the field, from the airport, or from home. The more sophisticated tools typically give you the ability to track versions of a file or document, meaning that each time someone updates a file, a new version is stored alongside of all the other previous versions. So you want to see when a document was last updated? No problem. Want to see who made the last update? No problem. Want to reverse the changes that someone made to a document? No problem. These tools offer a great alternative to sending files to people by attaching them to emails, so important files don't get lost in your email inbox or your junk mail folder. Files are automatically synchronized between all of your team's computers, phones, or tablets. So when someone on your project team makes changes to a file, everybody else who is connected to the same repository gets their own copy updated automatically. Therefore, Everyone on the project team has easy access to the latest version of every file, even if someone else makes updates to it. Because everyone is working out of the same repository, there's no confusion about who has the latest and greatest version of a file because everyone does. And finally, the project team's documents and files are stored in a secure repository, so no one can access them without having the right login credentials that you've given them. I'm going to share with you a 4-step process for setting up an online file sharing tool that you can use as a repository for all of your project-related documents and files. You should be able to follow these steps regardless of which file sharing tool you choose to use. So the first step in setting up a project documents repository is select an online file sharing tool. As I mentioned earlier, there are several online file sharing tools available today. Some of them are free or fairly inexpensive to use, so spend some time picking the right tool for your business and for your project team. Different tools have different sets of features and functions, and different project teams have different needs, so you'll want to line up your needs with the right tool. Determine the needs of your project team in terms of sizes of the files you'll be storing and sharing, file types, file name formats and lengths, platform compatibility such as Windows or Mac PCs, Android or iOS mobile devices, and so forth. Some file sharing tools may have restrictions in some of these areas, so you'll want to find out if you have any special requirements that can't be met by any of the tools that you're considering. For example, you may work with unusually large CAD files that some tools can't easily handle. Also, determine your budget for implementing one of these online file sharing tools. Some tools are free, but others charge a fee for you to use them. The options that cost money typically include more sophisticated features, or they may have more storage capacity. Research some of the available tools, their features, their reviews, and their pricing, including any tools that your company may already use. You may be surprised to find that another department or team within your company already uses one of these tools, so ask around. You may be able to share the one that they're using if it meets your needs, or at least get some candid feedback from them about their experience with that particular tool. Next, select 2 or 3 of the top tools that you think may meet your needs, test drive them for a period of time, and make a final selection. If you'd like some suggestions for online file sharing tools to check out, then you can visit my website, tonyzink.com, and download my free Project Tools Resource Guide. Step 2 in setting up your project documents repository is to plan out your project file structure and naming conventions. Once people start using your new online file sharing tool to keep track of all of their project documents and files, it can quickly turn into a disorganized dumping ground where it becomes increasingly difficult to find the files that you need when you need them. If people can't find what they're looking for, then they'll quickly abandon the tool and resort to other methods that they're already familiar with. They'll resort back to storing all of their files locally on their PCs and sending them to one another via email, which is what caused our problems in the first place. To prevent this from happening, we need to keep our new document repository clean and organized. Set up a standardized, hierarchical folder structure for everyone to use for storing their documents and files, and restrict the creation of new folders if you can, at least at the higher levels. In other words, create a standardized set of top-level folders, such as a folder for every project, and maybe some subfolders inside of each project folder that are also standardized. This will make it easier for anyone to look into any project folder and find the types of files that they need. Inside each top-level project folder, create subfolders to represent project phases, such as initiation, planning, execution, and closure, or create folders for various types of project documents, such as management documents, requirements documents, designs, procurement, deliverables, or photos. Again, to make it easy for people to find the files that they need, create standardized folder and file naming conventions with rules describing what kinds of codes or keywords should be used in the names, as well as rules describing minimum and maximum name lengths. It can be quite annoying when you're looking through folders and files that someone else has created and you can't find what you're looking for because they use cryptic names for everything. If your online file sharing tool has version control features, then I highly recommend turning them on and using them. This will allow you to see when every change was made to a document, who made the change, and in some cases, what exactly was the change. It will also allow you to revert back to a previous version of the document if necessary. Step 3 in our 4-step process to set up a project documents repository is to grant access to the project team and set up file syncing on each team member's computer or mobile device. Now, these online file sharing tools have security mechanisms in place that allow only the people who you specify access to your project files. You'll need to set up a unique ID or account for each person on your project team who needs to access the online document repository. This allows you to control who has access to the tool, and if someone leaves the project or leaves the company, you can shut down their access without affecting anyone else. When everyone has a unique ID, then you can see what each person is doing in the tool, and you can see who made a change to a document or a file that you're interested in. Software or apps will need to be installed on every team member's PC or mobile device to allow offline or remote access to their files. People typically create and update files on a PC or laptop, so they'll need the software installed there that synchronizes their project files to the online repository. And if people want the ability to access those files while they're out and about at meetings or out of the office, then they'll need to install an app on their mobile device that allows them to access the files from the online repository. The software and apps that you'll need to install are typically available for free download from the website of the online file sharing service provider. Although most online file sharing services do have a web interface that you can use through your web browser to access your project documents and files, having the software or apps installed on your PCs and mobile devices make for a much smoother experience for everyone on your team. Remember also that you can grant customers access to your project repository as well. If you want to do this, then you'll need to give them their own unique account so that they can access your project files. The 4th and final step of setting up our project documents repository is to train the project team members and communicate your usage policies. Once you've selected an online file sharing tool, planned out the file structure and naming conventions, granted people access, and installed all of the necessary software and apps, it's time to officially roll it out to your project team. First of all, don't assume that people will automatically know how to use the tool. Although these tools are typically pretty easy to use, set aside some time to give your team members an overview of the new tool and how to use it. For example, if your new tool has checkout check-in features that enforce a one person at a time document editing, then teach everyone how to use that feature to make their lives easier, since that may be a new concept to some people. Train them also on the standards that you've put into place, such as folder structures and naming conventions, and what other types of things are allowed or not allowed. Instruct them not to share their login credentials with anyone else, whether they're customers, vendors, or other employees, since this will put your project and your company's information at risk. If someone needs access to your document repository, then they need to have their own credentials set up. No sharing should be allowed. Rules and policies are usually created for a reason, to protect your company and to make everyone's lives easier. So to wrap up, if you follow these 4 steps to set up an online documents repository for your project, select an online file sharing tool, plan out your project file structure and naming conventions, grant access to the project team and set up the file syncing on each of their mobile devices or PCs, and train the project team members and communicate usage policies, then you should stop losing track of important project files or documents in email inboxes and junk mail folders. You should have an easier time tracking down the latest versions of all of your project files. You should prevent multiple people from updating the same files concurrently, and you should have the ability to easily see or update a document wherever you need it, regardless of your location. So thanks for tuning in and spending this time with me. I hope that you've enjoyed these tips and that you find them useful. I'd like to take a quick moment and remind you of 2 things though. Number 1, if you're not tuning in directly on my website, then you can visit my site at tonyzink.com. You can watch this video and others like it. You can listen to the audio podcast. You can read the entire written transcript and find other goodies there too, such as my free Project Tools resource guide. And number 2, please post your thoughts in the comments section. Do you have any questions, tips, or recommendations that you'd like to share? How do you handle situations like this? Some of the best questions and tips come from folks like you, the project management community, the people who are out there in the trenches every day working on projects. So definitely connect with everybody in the comments section. And until I see you next time, go back out there and keep building great things.